Hello, everybody. Today we have a huge Lionhearts update to announce. It just dropped onto the live game, so I'm going to go through the patch notes with you. I'm going to explain what each of the changes is, what each of the changes are, what do the changes mean, and how are they going to impact our game. And I really hope that you guys are going to stay tuned because this is really going to break down all the changes and our thought process behind them and what they're going to mean for the game. Okay, so here are the patch notes. First, we have map and garrisons. So the Chronicle tab in the map is now usable and shows each faction's core historical territory. Conquest icons will appear in front of the Chronicle icons, meaning just like their Z index is higher, higher. Clans now they can only capture outposts to prevent abuse and bypassing Casus Belli. So clans can no longer capture strongholds, fortresses, or seaports, only outposts. Fixed issue where you cannot teleport to a garrison after completing its cartography quest until rejoining the game. So that's just a little fix there. And let's just show you what we mean by some of these changes. So if you go into game and you see the map, and I don't have that much discovered on this account, but you can see we have our normal conquest filter, and we also have this filter called Chronicle. And what this does is it shows, not sure why it's not working for some of the bases. That's something that's going to be fixed. But it shows who owns the territory originally, otherwise it's core territory. So let's go to another one here. You could see who is the core territory owner of this area. Now, this is going to be added to the base icons as well, so you can tell. Typically, if it's outside of a... for example, if it's out... Like, Damascus is an Ayyubid core. It's an Ayyubid Chronicle territory. It's not that hard to understand. Because it's going to be surrounded by Ayyubid Chronicle territory. So this is a huge update, and what it actually reflects is something to do with power rankings, which is going to come later. So stay tuned for that. Next, we have Garrison Resources. All core Garrison faction territories have been shifted away from low-tier raw materials and moved to silver market tier productions. Within its core territory, every faction now has what it needs to produce cast iron ingots, isokine powder, and health tonics, albeit at a slow pace. Isokine powder is a finished product produced at a rate of 2 per hour. Cast iron ingots are facilitated through multiple garrisons. Limonite, hematite, and raw products produced at a rate of 6 per hour. Magnetite is a raw product produced at a rate of 4 per hour. Wrought iron ingots are produced at a rate of 2 per hour. Superfluous garrisons like the 2 in Seljuk and Ayyubid produce medicinal mixture at a rate of 1 per hour. Health tonics are facilitated through multiple garrisons as well. Crushed herbs and fruits of the land are finished products produced at a rate of 2 per hour. So again, go on the map and you hit the resource con, you can actually see the new balanced resources per garrison. So that's a pretty big change, so you want to keep an eye on that. Next, we have matchmaking. Some nice quality of life changes here in balancing. Siege of Jerusalem, reduce ram speed from 1.5 to 1.45 and increase siege tower speed from 1.1 to 1.15. This map gets complained about how hard it is for the attackers. I feel like Phase 2 is way too easy for attackers and Phase 3 is a little bit too difficult, so that's why these changes have been made. All burning areas on the ground will now damage players that set them on fire with the burning status effect. This also happens in other places like Burning Malta now. Not all fire does this, but some in the game will. Fixed to 15v15 disconnecting bug where everyone is thrown out of the match despite being loaded in. This one needs more testing in live. We couldn't really replicate it sufficiently in tests, so if this isn't fully fixed, don't be surprised, but I really hope it is. Player selected reward track will now show up at the top of the reward track list in the matchmaking post screen. That's a pretty good quality of life fix. Reward tracks now have been shortened by 33%. Added reward track boost vouchers to the game. So this is awesome. They work very similar to XP boosts. You Get plus 50% reward track points in each match. Similar to XP Boost, a top bar icon has been made to show people their reward track point game, only visible during matchmaking matches. Boosts can be purchased in the shop or through the top bar. So for that one specifically, you won't see it because we're not matchmaking, but right next to this XP gain rate, you'll also have a matchmaking reward track boost rate. So basically, you can click it and apply it the same way, and you can buy them the same places you buy these EXP gain rate vouchers. So pretty big change. That should help a lot with matchmaking, grinding, and getting rewards. Jerusalem. Reduced discovery radius of Martyrs Hill and Mount of Olives. Expanded the Jerusalem market and arena. Arena now roughly the same size as Messina Arena. Actually, I'm going to teleport there so we can show you guys. Fixed NPC placement and rotation for a few of the NPCs. Made arena entrance stairs wider and easier to access. Added arena PvP zone to the first section of the Tower David training area. Added spawn protection and moved owner spawn to top of round wall tower. Fixed a bug that prevented new Kings of Jerusalem plaques from being shown automatically. So, we'll go to Jerusalem real quick. And basically, these changes are what's been requested to enhance the player's experience at Jerusalem. There's also been a lot of optimizations made to Jerusalem for lag. I don't know how big of a difference it's going to make for lag, but we have done a little bit of part reduction. There is going to be more of that in the near future. It's a really big priority to get Jerusalem down as far as lag goes. So you can barely see it from this intro here, but there are some changes to Jerusalem, some pretty significant ones. The market's been greatly expanded, so there's way more market stalls. And you can just see the arena size is actually the same size, maybe even a little bigger as the Messina one as far as total area. It's a little bit less long, but it's wider. So we got a lot of complaints about this, so I feel like that's pretty good. And you can see over here, there's just less space in front of the western wall, but it wasn't really being used anyway. So, bigger market, bigger Messina, Jerusalem arena, which has been requested by players. Next, we have the Malta onboarding changes. Maltese count will now inform the player to stay on the path to avoid being burned, because fire will now apply burning status effect when you're in it. Change Marino's dialogue in Burning Malta to tell the player to go to Jerusalem and join a faction rather than Sicily. Marino will give you nothing and everything at the end of the dialogue. Change teleport in Malta and Burning Malta to go to Jerusalem instead of Sicily. Remove Jerusalem teleport part of Gino dialogue and UI tutorial. Early open game world and quest NPCs in Sicily should no longer have Woot's weapons. So these changes get people to Jerusalem faster, recruits, which you feel is really important. And there's just less teleporting. We were having some issues with that UI tutorial. So after Burning Malta, spoiler alert, you go right to Jerusalem to join a faction, and you can go back to Sicily after that point, or go to Sicily after that point. Jump stamina cost. This is going to be a controversial one. Jumping now costs the same amount of stamina as dodge in combat only. Jumping it out of combat only costs 35% of the instant combat stamina cost. So parkour should not be greatly affected. Increased jump power when in combat so it can be violently used now that there's a stamina cost. So if we go in game here, you can see I can actually jump while I'm in combat or with a sword out, and it actually gets quite a lot of power, but you can see my stamina goes down. So now it's an official combat move, just like a dodge, where I can jump, but it's going to cost me. And the jump can be used as another form of a dodge. Whereas out of combat, sword down, you can see it takes way less stamina. And it can actually still be pretty much spammed, but not completely. See this? This is the fastest I can spam it, meaning I can't just go around a flag and run infinitely and jump. But for parkour, you can still use it pretty much viably. And it's not as big of an issue. It's still going to be a factor, but keep in mind I have no stamina skill trees applied. So with a stamina, if you're really into parkour, a stamina skill tree will basically make this non-consequential. But the reason we did this is so people can't just go around a flag and bunny hop. And also so jumping actually can play a role in combat rather than being no jump power. You actually can have a little bit of jump power and use it as a combat move, but there's a stamina cost. It just didn't make sense from a game. This was my decision. It didn't make sense from a game development perspective to have something that should cost stamina not cost stamina, and then also allow it in combat, but it doesn't really do anything. It just really did not make any sense. So again, you could see it takes a very little amount of stamina. But if I bunny hop, if I'm literally just continually hopping like this and dodging hits, eventually it will go down and I will get a cooldown on it. And then somebody can land a hit, I'll be in combat, and it'll be a little bit more fair. So controversial change, but I personally think it totally necessary. Next, we have 250 unique item inventory limit. Items that can stack and still stack as much as they want. This is for unique stacks of items. Players with exactly or more of 250 stack items will not be able to pick up any more items until they drop below 250. Added an item counter next to the weight to counter the inventory. Next to the weight counter in the inventory. This is to prevent performance issues where people would just get 1,000 torch stacks and it would crash their game and cause bad performance for everybody, including themselves mostly. So if you go to your inventory, you could see I can only hold 250 unique stacks. So that's still a lot. You're going to be overweight if you get near that point anyway, but this is just something to help performance that we did. And, you know, like it was pretty necessary. Next, we have just general bug fixes. Chat title for owner of Jerusalem will not now be King of Jerusalem instead of Jerusalem guy. So that was a bug. Fixed a bug where available titles will override equipped title display in the chat. Fixed issue where use skill point would show up on the level rewards HUD even if you didn't earn another skill point. Fixed issue where use skill point would show up in the level rewards HUD for skills without a skill tree. Fixed issue where players were able to teleport to enemy base. Conquest servers directly from the main menu. Messina flags now correctly display the current base owner. Fixed issue where the family crest will be merged onto the division logo in the player interact menu specifically. Fixed siege score HUD clipping with the compass HUD. Fixed certain titles missing a space, making them connect with player name and chat. So just some bug fixes, quality of life stuff. Miscellaneous. Reset all negative play. This is really important. Reset all negative honor players to negative 100 honor. So if you were below negative 100, now it's only at negative 100. And this was to pair with another change we did to faction honor, which is going to come later. Stay tuned for that. But this is a little bit of grace. We know some people got way less honor than they wanted to, and they didn't really understand the system. So we're giving a little bit of grace to these low honor players. So if you're at negative 2,000, now you're at negative 100. If you're at negative 80, you're still at negative 80. If players are able to craft more than one item after clicking craft, they will now be prompted with a popped up to craft more than one of that item. This is a huge quality of life change people have been requested for a while, meaning if you want to craft 100 torches at once, you can just enter that number and not have to wait and click 100 times. Added a new high fidelity plant and bush models. I think they look great. Personally, it's going to help a lot with lag. Reduce the honor cost for team kills and conquest servers from -5 to -2. Reduce the honor cost for random team kills and non-conquest servers from -30 to -15. Just team killing can sometimes be accidental. I still feel like it's low honor and it needs to be punished, but not as heavily as we were. Okay, now for some of the big changes that I really like. Faction diplomacy. Buffed revolt time start to 10 days from 7 after being conquered. This is just so if somebody gets conquered, they really have to wait. You can't just immediately start a revolt a week later. You have to wait 10 days, which is a little bit of a nerf on revolts. It no longer requests protection. Have protection agreement accepted if you do not own your capital. So no more IU bids circumventing vassalization from the Teutons like they did last summer, because as soon as they're about to get conquered, they request protection from France. That's no longer possible, which also means requesting protection while at war is no longer against the rules. I've already talked to judiciary around it. With this change, you can request protection whenever you want. That's a game development feature. It should not be regulated by judiciary. Releasing a protectorate will now cost you 1,000 honor. Protectorate agreements still last a month. So if you try to release a protectorate before the term of the agreement, you lose 1,000 honor. Protectorates are now one-way alliances. The protectorate will have the protector listed as an ally. The protector will not have the protectorate listed as an ally. Battle queues should only be sent out when the protectorate is defending. Okay? Meaning it's one way. Breaking an NIP will now cost 2,000 honor instead of 1,000. Revolts can no longer start within 45 days of the last one instead of 30. Another revolt, nerf. Faction leaders can now only request accept diplomacy types one at a time. Diplomacy requests will now expire after 1 week. This will prevent diplomacy spam and should fix a lot of the diplomacy bugs that we were seeing. These are some of my favorite changes here that I made. Added faction progress tracker to the top bar. You're able to see the rank and next rank requirements. That shows progress towards weekly pay. Clicking the faction icon will open your faction's main page. Weekly pay is now paid as soon as you meet the contribution threshold. Weekly pay can now be set by the leader on a per rank basis. It is no longer universal for the whole faction. Fixed a bug where weekly pay would be paid regardless of the contribution you earn that week. Only get paid if you earn the contribution. Weekly contribution will be reset every Sunday. If you do not get enough contribution in time, you will have to restart from 0 on the new week starting Monday. Adding percent changes to faction stats on the faction page. Contribution earned outside of that being given by an HR no longer sets a cooldown. So if you get contribution from matchmaking, it won't put you on cooldown. Increased base matchmaking contribution from 15 to 30. Increased contribution amount given from 50 to 200 max every 3 hours. So a bit of a buff on contribution there. And let me show you guys some of these changes because I think they look really nice. Okay, you can see up in the top left corner, Kingdom of England. I can see what I've been a member, what my rank is, what the next rank, the general level requirement for the next rank, the total contribution requirement for the next rank, and my rank's weekly wage and how close I am to getting the contribution for that. So I need 1,000. My faction says I need 1,000. So I have to earn 1,000 this week to get my weekly pay. As soon as I earn the 1,000, I get paid instantly. It doesn't get paid all at once. It gets paid instantly, and then I'm on cooldown until the next week starts. And plus this, check this out. You can click this. It's going to open up my faction page directly, which is a huge quality of life change, in my opinion. Still takes a while to load, which is something we need to look at. But Kingdom of England and some of those other changes I've talked about is if you go to stability, you can actually tell what stability does. So what affects stability? These numbers were always calculated in the background, but now you can see. Honor for, okay, so the Kingdom of England, we gained almost 12% stability in the last week. So this is important. The actual effect on stability is in these brackets here. But the honor changed. We increased our honor by 15%. We increased our treasury by 4%. We increased our power ranking by 19%. And we lost 3% active troops. So this 15% only nets to 2.25% on the actual stability. Where the power ranking, because it's worth 50% of the stability's weight, did 9.5. So it's a little confusing, but each stat that contributes to stability is weighted differently. Power ranking is the most important, which is why it's at 50%. And there's some more power ranking changes that we are going to show you guys. And if you guys look in the ranks, you can see here, each rank has a weekly wage. So the leaders are going to have to go in and set these weekly wages, or else you guys aren't going to get paid, because each one's going to be different. And they could make their own weekly wage, 10 million gold, and they could be corrupt and lose their treasury if they want. That's up to them. Free market. Deal with it. Okay, next. And this is the power ranking changes, which are really important. New power ranking multiplier values for calculating weekly ratings. This is going to completely change power rankings. Major balance change. Increased attack multiplier to 75 from 10. Defense to 75 from 10. Contribution multiplier decreased from 0.5 to decreased to 0.05 from 0.25. It was basically contribution was the only thing that mattered for power rankings because it was weighted so highly. So that's been changed. Increased base multiplier to 250 from 100 for every owned base. Stronghold, 100 from 30. Seaport, 80 from 0. It wasn't counting seaports, although seaports still won't display. That's going to be fixed. Fortress from 50 to 20. Outpost from 15 to 10. Points are now shown on the power ranking tab next to each stat, so you can see how much is contributing to a faction's weekly points. Faction matchmaking wins are now used to calculate weekly power rankings. Technically, they were before, but it wasn't visible and nobody knew that. So winning matchmaking matches contributes to your faction's power ranking. Playing matchmaking contributes to your faction's power ranking, which means it's the biggest factor to contribute to stability. Because stability is mostly affected by power ranking. Chronicle territory ownership, remember that on the map, now affects your power ranking points. If you only own 50% of your core territory, you will get 50% of your power ranking points. Okay? So I'm going to explain this. It's a little confusing. Come on. All right. All right. So you can see almost all these factions own all their Chronicle. Actually, that power ranking is... Ooh, Abbasid's getting cooked. Okay. Because the Abbasids don't own any of their Chronicle territory. Okay. You can see here, it shows what each one is contributing for points. So Zangids are cooked. They have no points, but at least they own their Chronicle ownership. Power, Cyprus, and these other territories having way less points, despite the fact they have more contribution, because they own more of their Chronicle. So Chronicle ownership acts as a debuff. If you do not own all your Chronicle territory, it will nerf your it'll nerf your power ranking points. Meaning if you don't own any of your if you do not own any of your Chronicle territory, you can see it actually takes away, it's a mistake in the power rankings. Mistake. It's not written correctly. I need to fix it. I'm going to type this out and fix it right now. Okay, I fixed it. So it's not 100% nerf, it's a 50% nerf. So if you own 50% of your core territory, you will only get 25% of your power ranking. Is that right? That's not right. Anyway, no, it's like 75. Something like that. I'm sorry. Anyway, it only nerfs it by half. So if you have 0 Chronicle ownership, it'll basically take off 50%. If you have 100, it does nothing. So that's why like Knights Templar have 100 and they have the highest points. Meaning owning your core territory is super important for power rankings. So use the map. Remember what we looked at before. Use the map to see if you own your core territory or not. If you don't, it's going to affect your power rankings. And yes, we just updated the power rankings today because we had so many changes that need to be updated instead of waiting till Sunday. Okay. Go back. Where were we? Faction Honor. Faction Honor is now decided by the weighted sum of its members. Refreshes daily with the following weights applied to each rank. Okay? Faction Honor is now connected to your honor in-game, your personal honor. Applicants are not considered. Low, which doesn't matter because they're in divisions anyway. That shouldn't be in there. Low ranks are weighted honor by 1. So 1 to 1. If you have negative 100 honor, it impacts your faction negative 100. Medium ranks, 1.5. Negative 100, negative 150. High ranks, negative 100, negative 300. High rank, high command, negative 100, negative 7050. Leader, the leader has negative 100 honor. They will have negative 2,000 honor in game. Okay. I mean, in their faction will have -2,000. It's the sum of their honor. The previous honor values were added on top of this because we didn't want to wipe out people's previous faction honor progression. But basically, if I go to any faction, the honor is now a sum of the faction's players' honor. So it's going to be a wider range of what you could consider as far as, like, you know, who has what honor, right? And this still needs to be run, so okay. Let's go back to the patch notes and continue. All right, we're almost done. Negative positive honor decisions by faction leaders now reflect on them personally, which is then weighted 20 times on the faction. Sign an NAP plus 3 honor for the leader, 60 for the faction. Break an NAP minus 100 honor for the leader, minus 2,000 for the faction. Fixed a bug where signing an NAP would only give honor to one faction, now gives to both leaders. Faction helmets. That's a pretty big change, guys. That's a pretty major change. Added new helmets for the following ranks. Ayubid Division and Main high ranks. Ayubid Leader. Zangid, MR, and HR. So new helmets for them. Congrats. Recolored the Holland Leader helmet to match the rest of HRE divisions. Yes. That's me. I'm the Holland Leader. Fixed Lubeck HR1 and Hospitaler. First in command. Great helms to be transparent due to holes. Recolored the standard Antioch Great Helm and added it to Latica Leader. Replace the old HR with standard HR helmet. So that's all the non-combat related balance changes. And then we're just going to blast right through these last changes. Spear has been given a buff. It's just a basic damage buff, plus 1 damage at every level. Cast Iron even plus 2. So plus 1 or 2 depending. Maybe even 3 in cast. That's a huge buff to cast Spear. Holy cow. Savage Slash has also been buffed. And Sudden Strike's movement speed has been reduced to 0, so it doesn't affect your movement speed. So Spear, buff. It was basically unusable, a lot of people said. Buff. Short sword damage, nerfed. Nerfed by 1, basically, 1 or 2, which was also needed because short sword was probably the best build in the game. One-handed swordsmanship tree. We just kind of nerfed the charge time a little bit, some of the damage, movement speed. You can look at all these individually. Heavy weapon handling skill tree. Counter-strike is a little bit better. A little better for heavy weapons. Herculean vigor is now a little bit less, so kind of nerfing the HP regain a little bit. Iron Will 1 and 2 is better for block defense, so kind of just making the multiple skill tree paths a little bit more viable. That's it, guys. Major changes. I hope you guys got all that. Rewind, rewatch if you need to. Faction honor. The faction changes are pretty major. Faction hopping should be greatly mitigated because if you leave, you're also giving up your weekly wage because weekly wages will be higher for high ranks if leaders are not brain dead. They will do that. I would imagine, unless you're Templars, and then everybody gets 0 gold, which is fine too. Very based. And some huge changes, guys, to protectorates. Huge changes to clans. This is a huge balancing update, a huge quality of life update. Just some of this stuff like being able to see this in the top and click on it, very big. So go test it out. Hopefully it doesn't break. I'm waiting with bated breath. Of course, we'll see. Thanks, guys, very much. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the update. Please leave comments. What do you think about the update? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Why? I want to know. Tell me in the comments and leave a like or dislike on the video. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for being patient. Really excited about this update.